Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we have a lot of different topics to discuss. You know, I do so much research for Tekken, for characters, for story, for news articles, for all these different things, and sometimes I run into small tweets or small ideas that I want to talk about, but it's not really worth a full video. So I gather a bunch of topics that all interest me in one way or another, and I just talk about them. So that's what this video is going to be. The first thing...
What the fuck?
Wait. I was going to do a whole segment and talk about this, but it really boils down to rollback netcode. Once again, Tekken is 3. That's the famous quote from Harada. And basically what you have happening on Twitter, everyone's going back and forth talking about why Tekken is this, why Tekken is that. And at this point, I felt like I pretty much said everything that I can say about rollback netcode. After reading all these news articles, all these tweets, I still don't properly understand why it's not working, why it's so bad in Tekken. I'll show you guys all of these tweets. You can pause and read if you want to see what this person says and that person's response. All I have to say about rollback netcode and just the online infrastructure of Tekken as a whole, I don't know why it's not working, but I hope Harada does. Twitter can go back and forth, and YouTube can go back and forth, Reddit can go back and forth all day, every day, but it's all pointless if the devs don't know. If the devs don't know, then we're screwed. So that's my take. Let's move on. On the topic of Twitter, be sure to follow me on Twitter. I seen something the other day that was really cool. So you guys know I do polls. I plan on doing a lot more, a bunch of different varieties of topics. You guys also comment on this video a poll idea you would like for me to do. But one of the polls, 7,000 votes. Do you want Lucky Chloe in Tekken 8? High Buff Gigas voted on this poll and then actually tweeted it out on Twitter. This was really cool to see, but the reason I like to do polls is because it gives us the numbers, the percentages. When we talk about character popularity and like, oh, this character this, it often feels like we're using made up numbers in a sense. Like I was saying Christy is more popular than Eddie for like 2 years. I did a poll and Eddie won. So those are the kind of things where I mean, where like we could say something just because we feel like it's true, but then when you actually let the community vote, it's the opposite. Or sometimes it reassures what you thought. The next thing is a fan art of Eliza. This Eliza fan art got over 10,000 likes on Twitter. It caught Harada's attention. It says, Eliza for Tekken 8 please. Harada says, awesome. Now, of course everyone is jumping the gun and they're saying, oh, this automatically confirms her for Tekken 8. Now, I'm still on the fence about whether they will or they won't. Maybe I should do a poll. Should Eliza be in Tekken 8? That sounds kind of interesting, but I think the reason why I would say yes is one, because this character is really cool in terms of story and also gameplay. Her gameplay is very, very unique. The bad thing and why I would also say no is because 2D. No one likes 2D. Akuma and Geese Howard, they ruined it. They ruined the whole 2D party for everyone. Now every single 2D character that is put into Tekken is going to be scrutinized for at least a decade. Maybe at that point when we get to Tekken 9 or 10, people will forget about Akuma, but right now, that is the last thing people want. When honestly, I would say there's some Tekken characters who are far worse than Akuma. I was going to talk about this later on in the video, but let's jump to it now. I often say that Claudio is one of the most OP characters in the game. He has the highest win rate out of everyone on the base roster. If you remove the DLC from the game, Claudio would be number 1. And I often say, why don't people think he should get nerfed? People always target Fang, Akuma, but what about Claudio, who's been dominant since day 1? Arson Ash just tweeted out, I legit think Claudio's back 1 is one of the best moves in the game. Listen to that. His back 1 is one of the best attacks in the game. You know how powerful a attack has to be considered the best in all of Tekken. I can't remember the exact number, but I think Tekken 7 has like 7,000 different attacks. So Claudio, who only has 63, and one of those 63 is considered the best in the whole, just imagine what some of his other things can do. He also responds and says, should be nerfed. It's kind of funny that Shadow steps in and says, please stop. Two reasons. One, Arson Ash got 6-0'd by Shadow. No one will forget that. But two, this often goes back to the idea where we want our characters to be powerful and every other character to be weak. And I'm not saying that's what Shadow is doing here, but it kind of just goes back to that idea of nobody wants a weak character. And honestly, I would like to see a Tekken game full of scrub characters. Think of the worst character in your mind. Whether it's Josie, Lars, Gigas, Yoshimitsu, Eddie, whichever you think the worst character is. Imagine if every character was about that same level of trash. I want to see what a Tekken like that looks like, where no one is being carried by a character. No one has the best move in the game. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe that's the worst Tekken to be ever made, you know? Let's move on. This topic is about clones. Now I know there's some things that I say in videos that is just the broadest term ever. I will call this character a clone, that character a clone. I will call anything a clone just for looking somewhat similar. But a person on the Tekken subreddit made a chart. It says, made this to tell a friend about how similar some characters are in Tekken. And basically you have most of the Tekken characters that would be considered somewhat clonish, somewhat sameish. Of course they're missing like Slim Bob, Big Bob, Yoshimitsu, Kunimitsu, but they have the majority, right? Jin and Devil Jin at the very top, these two are farthest from the part. Same with Marduk and Gigas down at the bottom. I like here how Panda and Kuma are so similar to where they really are in the same box as one another. You guys can go through and just look at this. The reason why I think this is fascinating because this shows me I thought Baek-Do-san and Haran was more so like Law and Law. But here you can see that they're actually quite different from one another. You can often consider them just as far apart as King and Armor King, Nina and Anna Williams, which is a really big difference, you know? So I just thought this chart was really cool, and maybe I thought I should show some of you guys because I know I used the term clone so loosely and over time it could lose meaning, right? The next thing, IGN, they tweet out, fighting games tend to have a plethora of memorable characters. We want to know which franchise you think has the most iconic. When you click on the link, you go to their website, it says which fighting game franchise has the most iconic characters. You have a bunch of different options: Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Guilty Gear, Tekken, Soul Calibur, King of Fighters, Killer Instinct, and Dead or Alive. The winners of this is Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. This is the reason why I say things like, can Tekken 8 keep up with Street Fighter? Can Tekken 8 do this? Can Tekken... Because Tekken 7 beat Street Fighter 5. The reason why Street Fighter lost is because they shot themselves in the foot. Their game was horrible on launch. And also, it was exclusive. It wasn't on Xbox. Street Fighter 6 is going to be on all platforms, and I guarantee it's going to be way better at launch. Tekken 8 is going to be riding off the momentum of Tekken 7, but still, Street Fighter is Street Fighter, and they're going to really have to compete for that casual audience. And also Mortal Kombat, it's only 3% lower than Street Fighter. While we're on the topic of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, quickly mention this. Ed Boon, everyone's waiting for the game that he's going to announce. A lot of people think it's going to be some sort of Marvel, DC crossover game. And he is just trolling so incredibly hard. He's tweeting out a bunch of stuff about Marvel. He's tweeting out stuff waiting for the next NRS game. This guy is trolling on the levels of Harada. Another hilarious post. Capcom says, who's your favorite Capcom villain? And then Native responds with a picture of Ono. This is so ruthless because you guys know that Ono got fired for how Street Fighter V turned out, right? They blamed him for that. And I kind of think it's not fair because the success of Street Fighter 4 was Ono's doing. What I don't realize about Street Fighter 5 is why was the budget so low? Because I remember that game. That game wasn't going to happen if PlayStation didn't step in. That's why it was exclusive. But what's confusing about that is they had a mega success like Street Fighter 4. Where did all the money and budget for that game go? That's like in Tekken 7, this huge success. But then in Tekken 8, they have to partner with Xbox to make Tekken 8. It's like, where did all that money go? That's the biggest question I have. And I don't blame Ono for that. I'm just asking a question. How do you go from reviving the FGC with Street Fighter 4 and then you need Sony's help to make Street Fighter 5? That's confusing. Sonic Fox tweets out, I honestly think most fighting games should be first to 3 nowadays. It's just a better format, to be honest. Now, my immediate thought is yes, make every fighting game first to 3. But the thing about a fighting game is sometimes you don't want to play someone 3 games or 2 games. Sometimes you get matched up with a character like Kunimitsu, Claudio. You get matched up with these broken, overpowered characters and you don't even want to deal with it. 2, you also have to factor in lag. Tekken 7 is atrocious. What if you're locked into a match for 3 games, 2 games? That's a nightmare. On the flip side, if characters was more balanced, if it was more fun to play, I could see this working. Instead of doing one ranked match where you win, you lose, and then you get your points, I think it would be cool to see a first to 3 format where after you play that set, then you get your points distributed. Not only do you play more games, but the whole set becomes a experience. You get blown up by some random nonsense. You have time to learn and adapt in the next one. But this kind of goes back to what I just said. Some people don't want to learn or adapt. They just want to steamroll players and then quickly get rank and then on to the next match, right? James Chin, I love James Chin. They respond to Sonic Fox and says, one of the hardest things to remember is that first to 3 the whole way also hurts variety for streamers of pools and semis. You'll get less total sets on stream and thusly not be able to see many of your favorite players. That's one side effect of first to 3 to consider. I just thought that was fascinating because I do want longer sets. I run into this problem when I play in fighting games where no one resets. One win or lose and they're out. I just want to see more of an interaction, right? The next post that I want to talk about, also from Twitter, this is from Tekken Gamer. Now Tekken Gamer, they tweet out a lot of fascinating tweets. Maybe I'll show some of those right now. You can pause and read because some of these have to do with tournaments, some of these have to do with online and this and that, Tekken 8, yada yada yada. The one that I want to read, if Tekken 8 comes with these modes and multiplayer, it will become the greatest Tekken of all time. Stream numbers will be crazy, and they basically list out all the game modes they would like to see in Tekken 8. Team Battle, Time Attack, Survival, Tekken Ball, Tekken Force, Tekken Bowl, Practice Mode. Now, this sounds great, right? But the issue with this is people struggle to find a match when you only have 3. You only have ranked, player match, tournaments, and then lobbies. That's 4 things in Tekken 7, and it's a struggle now to find matches. And if you throw in 7 more to make like 11 or something, it would be a nightmare trying to find a match. What they can do to supplement this, to fix this, is go the route of Street Fighter where you combine all of these game modes into one. Tekken Ball, Tekken Bowl, Survival, you can have Turbo Mode, you can have more damage, you can have all of these wacky ideas packed into one mode, and that's it. Maybe get rid of tournaments, but I don't know, tournaments is really cool. Team Battle should be there. Tekken Force, they could probably add that into the story. It's a way to incorporate all of these into Tekken, but at a certain point the player base would be splintered into so many different directions and you would be stuck trying to find a match in any specific one. So I think they should just choose like 1 or 2. Team Battle, Tekken Force, and maybe do a 3rd game mode for everything else, but then I don't know, it gets difficult, it really does. A response to this that I like says, after what Street Fighter is doing, with its modes, Tekken needs to really step it up in Tekken 8. Tekken 7 had the least modes of any Tekken. One final thing that I want to mention is the regional finals that's taking place. They have regional finals throughout the world for every different region, but the format of it really isn't the best. The round robin, I get why they're doing a round robin. They really want to make the top 16 feel impactful, but round robin is just not good. It's because round robin, every individual match doesn't matter. One match doesn't matter. All of them as a collective matters. So when you're doing tournaments where all of the individual matches doesn't matter, it doesn't give people an incentive to watch. What really makes these tournaments incredible is that you lose 2 times and you're out the tournament. In round robin, you could get O2'd and you're done for. You still play 2 more. You're just playing spoiler at that point, you know?
Well, it lets every player play more matches. But dude, we got thousands of people here who don't give a fuck, and you're adjusting the presentation of this whole thing to this one person, 2 people. Fuck that guy, man. We're all watching this guy play 1 extra game, and that 1 extra game ends up being one that doesn't matter because he can't win, you know?
One thing too is they're online. Online, it's like they made it the worst they possibly can. Online and a round robin. Who is gonna sit through that?
Yo, I'm a bit stressed out, man, but I'm relieved that it's all over, man. I'm relieved. I'm just so happy I made it, man. This format was stress. Online is stress. Fuck online. But we made it, man. We made it.
This is in response to Arson Ash saying, after seeing Chicory and Pena didn't make it into global finals, I'm worried about myself. Banana says, so I was traveling almost every week to get into the finals, but due to the online points having the same value as offline points, I didn't qualify. Not to be narcissistic, but if it wasn't for online points counting so much, I think I would have been more than qualified. And you see another problem here with these regionals is not only is it round robin, it's boring to watch, but it's less of an incentive to travel. Online is just as important as offline. Yet when you think about it, I haven't watched 1 offline tournament all year. I watched Evo, CEO, Tiger Upper, Combo Breaker. I watch these big events that is like massive. But meanwhile, there's online events taking place and these things are just as massive or just as important, right? I get they're trying to change up the format, but I think they need to just tweak it a little bit more and then maybe we can have something that's, you know, enjoyable, right? But that's going to be it for this video. A lot of ideas, a lot of topics all at once. This video is probably going to be massive, but thank you to everyone who's watching and sticking through to the end. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.